وتم التسليم وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. Again, Jazakumullah khairan for the people that came from a distance and from the locals. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يفتح لكم بزيارتكم حسنات وبركات ويجعله نوع من العبادات يقربكم إليه به. And may Allah bless your travel, make it fruitful, and write it down as an act of worship that draws you closer to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salam, he praised the people that was Za'irin al-Lillah. They visit one another just because that person is a Muslim. You want to see them, you want to fraternize. Moreover, if it's connected to an issue of knowledge, then the Prophet praises. This is not like going to Disneyland or on a cruise or to the. Now I have to be careful. There's some island people here, no disrespect intended. Like going to the island, you know what I'm saying? This is different. And so this, I'm really saying, may Allah write that down for you as an act of worship. Your visit here to gather for knowledge and to gather to see one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to take some question and answers around the topic that the Shaykh gave with regards to social ills on the internet and some solutions. But I just want to make a few comments before we do that. The Shaykh himself, our brother Abu Aliya, some of the points he talked about was the addiction to the internet or the addiction to the device. Another point that he talked about was the issue of what we call multitasking, which when we think about that, people praise it. It's like, something you could say, well, I'm not slow. I can do more than one thing at a time. But if you think about what Priscilla mentioned with regards to Jumu'ah, when you come to Jumu'ah, when you come to the masjid on the day for congregational prayer and to hear the sermon, Priscilla mentioned for the one, then call it sahibihi, in Arabic, sut or us means shh, be quiet. These are terms that Prophet and many times suh is used for the animal. Suh. Shaykh Abdullah, Abu Abdul Rahman, rahimahullah ta'ala, Shaykh Abdullah Makfi tells that suh. It's for the animal, us, or shh. Like this in Arabic for the human, you want them to be quiet. Prophet said, whoever says that, the guy is next to you, he's saying something, you say, I can't, shh. The Prophet said, laqad lagawt. Laqad lagawt. In Arabic, qada lets you know that something is an action that's about to come grammatically. The lam is for ta'keed, for certainty. Lagawt means you've lost all your value, your merit, your worth for coming to Jumu'ah. It's like you shouldn't have even came because you said, shh. Now you know that you shouldn't talk. There's many explicit texts for that. So you said, well, I didn't talk. All I said was, shh. The Prophet said, you go to Jumu'ah. Why? Because what's we're tying this to the attention span, the multitasking. The Prophet taught us that you give your undivided attention in the khutbah. But society says, again, multitasking. Do this, do that, do this. And it doesn't make you slow because you don't do that. It doesn't make you yani zaki or yani شخص يعني ذل يعني شيء عالي because you can multitask. It doesn't make you intelligent or someone who's superior in your thought process because you can do this, that, and the third at the same time. That's a shubhat from the kuffar. A misconception, a way to fool us, and we brought into that. How many car accidents because somebody's driving, texting, scrolling, reaching, adjusting, doing this. And we have some exceptions to the rule. Some people haven't had an accident and they do it. That's from Allah. Whether you want to take a chance until now, you're the victim because you were doing something when your undivided attention should have been on the road while you operate that vehicle. So the same thing, the Shaykh, when he was talking about this issue of the social media, you do this, you go open this page, you open the other page, you go to this site, you go to that site. You can never really be grounded in something unless you stay with that thing. Even if your attention span has become short, you don't have the patience, leave that thing, take a break, and go back to that thing. But to go to another site and another this, unless each site you're going to, the subject matter is the same. Like you're looking to see how much is eggs at Aldi's. But then you go to ShopRite to see how much is the eggs. Okay. You're staying in the same subject matter. You're going to different stores, the same thing. But the point is that these jargons and statements, part of this problem is that they're feeding us this and we brought into it. Multitasking, and low attention span, subhanAllah. And so that's very important to understand. And I mean, there's a such thing as focus and to zoom in on one thing until you get that thing down. This is real. And just because the times change and they come with something of a new nuance, doesn't mean that out with the old, new one, and in with the new. No, in this regard. So that's something to understand when we talk about the attention span being short and the issue of being able to multitask and so forth. This is something that is a tool of misconception and something to take you away from concentrating on one thing at a time. The second thing I want to mention, we talk about the issue of internet students. The Sheikh mentioned that. There's a lot of this on the internet and what's the cat. One of the things we find, the Sheikh said, it's different from sitting at the foot of somebody who took knowledge, meaning learning from somebody directly. But many of the ulama means scholars, Islamic scholars, which is terminology people don't know, this terminology ulama, they mentioned that you should exhaust the knowledge where you are locally before you branch out and go outside your locale to get knowledge. And what does this tell you again? That you should know that there's a protocol to get at the knowledge. It's not just taking the knowledge from somebody and being at the foot of somebody, but you exhaust the knowledge where you are. Many times the brothers, and I can't say sisters because I don't know if they say they want to go study abroad, but brothers, they say this calmly. Hey, I'm going to go to Medina, man, get the Luga meaning language. But what have you done locally? What have you started with at home? Because a lot of times, if you're not really doing that thing, in real time where you live, you're going to go abroad and you're going to fail because there's a mentality and there's an issue of structure that has to do with gaining that knowledge. And we did that when we went to America, right? When we went abroad, we were studying locally. We exhausted everything we could locally, and then we did what? We went abroad. And that's the formula. So I wanted to just speak to that, And now, of course, you have tools. You can use different, online services. But the point is, don't substitute that for studying with someone in person, in the masjid, at the foot of a person who has it, and substitute the issue of taking what's local before you go somewhere else. Very important. Also, when you talk about this issue of solving these problems, the main thing, whether it's some type of pornography addiction, and let's talk real, we have these issues. People sometimes cringe or why the Shaykh mentioned that in the message. This is a real issue. Allah said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't come near a fornication and adultery. That's in the Quran. Allah said, وَلَا يَسْنُونَ. And they don't make illegal intercourse, fornication, adultery. So these issues are mentioned in the Quran. So a lot of times, whether it's that type of addiction, or mudman al-qamar, being addicted to some substance, or, we have to say it, being addicted, to food, as the Prophet mentioned, المؤمن يأكل في بطن واحد والكافر في بطن سبع. Now, the believer eats in one stomach, meaning he eats enough for one person. But the kafir eats in 7 stomachs, enough for 7. That's an addiction. That's addiction. So all of these issues, what it demands is tazkiyat al-nufus, purifying our souls and purifying ourselves as a human from these sicknesses. And many times, we're not telling brothers, don't go to NA and AA. Because brothers still go to the meetings. Brothers still go to the AA and NA meetings because that's what they've been doing for years. To stay clean from drugs. And the women they go to, some brothers meet their wife at the meetings. They're married 20 years, 19. Where'd you guys meet? Oh, we met at the meetings. But, the reality is that the purification process, Allah mentioned that from the perspective of the religion. And Shaykh Abdul mentioned that the whole issue of purifying a person's soul, it can't be done without the tawheed. What is the tawheed? What does this mean? Knowing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Lord, is. Knowing that He is the only one through any means can allow you to leave something bad, and that's what tazkiyah means. You clean that thing. But you also have to leave that thing. So you can't clean something, bring some good stuff in without cleaning. You have to bring the good in, but take the bad out. You have to bring the good in and take the bad out. You can't bring in good, and don't clean out. And that's one of the things we're having with these problems, including these social ills. We're trying to bring things in, but we're not cleaning out. We're trying to practice some aspects of Islam, but we're not letting go of the pre-Islamic things that damage that Islam in the first place, that goes against that Islam. So, the Shaykh, he mentioned, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that, don't forget, this is the mere reason we were created. To act, to think, to speak, to move, to eat, to sleep, to drink, to socialize, the way Allah told us we should be doing it. That's the general meaning of ibadat, worship. Don't think of worship as, well, I prayed in Ramadan, so I'm worshiping. No, it's more than that. Worship how you deal with your neighbors. Worship how you deal between yourselves, your spouses. Worship how you deal with your children. Worship is how you deal with your siblings. Worship is how you deal on the job. وَأَشَدَّ مِنْ ذَلِكَ تَعَامَلْ بَيْنَ الْعَبْدِ وَرَبِّهِ. And greater than that is how you deal between you and your Lord. How you deal between you and your Lord. For example, if somebody is here on the Musalla watching me, and it's time to pray, I'm going to pray. I'm not going to leave the masjid when the adhan is called and go to the store. I'm going to pray. Why? Because, if I leave, the brother will say, Shaykh, where you going? It's time to pray. But if nobody's around, or I'm at home, or I'm out somewhere, it's time to pray, I'm not going to pray. Maybe 1 salat, 2 salat. So the relationship between the servant and the Lord, how you deal, means you do what Allah Azza wa Jal command you. You leave what Allah Ta'ala forbade you. This is more important than how you deal between the people. Although dealing between the people is important, your relationship, they call it irtibat, your connection, bainak or bain rabbik. That's the first thing. How you with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. وَيُشْمَلْ مِنْ هَذَا الصِّدِقِ ضِدُّ كَذَبٍ. What is inclusive in that? Being truthful, which is the opposite of being deceitful and lying. Again, on the internet, rather than society is permeated and based upon being a liar, being someone who's slick, feeling you entitled to say something and nobody should hold you accountable just because. You see the biggest criminal on trial right now, lying, scheming, and he expects to get off with those lies. He feels entitled that people should buy into that. Why? Because this is the American way. But when we talk about these social ills, including the internet, for the Muslim, you have to realize all of that's the opposite of what Allah commanded us with and what He sent to us through His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So much so, the Rasul mentioned, if the baby is 3 feet away from you, you said to the baby, come on, Ta'ali Ahmed. He's not coming. Then you reach down and get a lollipop. Ta'ali Ahmed, come on Ahmed. He looks, his eyes get big. He starts coming. He's slobbering. He's dribbling. He's coming. He's get to you. You put the lollipop down. I got you. Catch up. Lying. You deceived them. You deceived them. And society, I was just playing with him. I just wanted to get him. But Islamically, that's a big issue. And it doesn't stop there. It only gets bigger and bigger and bigger and worse. As the great scholar, Hassan Basri, he said, the munafiq, wal kafir, ينظر إلى ذنوبهم كالذباب على أنفهم. The kafir and the hypocrite, they look at their sins like a fly on his nose. He swats it. Move, go. It's a small thing. But the believer, they look at their sins as if a mountain's going to fall on their head. They take it serious. They take the sin serious. كبير منهم وصغير منهم. Whether it's major or minor, they treat them this. They take it serious. So this, is something when we talk about how to look at these social ills and, the knowledge you gain and the different ways that you're given to cope, always refer back to the Tawheed of Allah. What Allah commanded us with these issues, with the advancements in technology, with how things have, advanced and, we have evolved. The Tawheed of Allah. Who Allah is. Who we are. As Allah just said, وَأَنْتُمُ الْفُقَرَاءُ. We're nothing to Allah. وَاللَّهُ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. But Allah owns everything. And He's due all of the praise no matter what. That's the real reality for us. The real reality. And you have to know and learn Islam. It's not a slight. We're not saying we know everything. But you have to learn your Islam. There's no substitute. It's about the Shaykh. The one who doesn't have something and lost it, how can he give it? How can you give a service to the Lord of the worlds when you don't even know what He expects from you? How? And how can we be example to our children? It's the main thing you hear. How to bring the youth back to the masjid. How to get the youth to the house of Allah. But what kind of youth we want? Fasiqun? Evil children? What kind of children we want? Children that don't love Allah, but they just come because you said, boy, go to the masjid. We want children that love Islam, that understand that they can be a child, but still be a Muslim. They can be a child, but still be righteous. But those examples have to be set by who? Us. Us. From the issues of tazkiyah, of purification, with any addiction, any social ill, a dua. A dua. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many times do we not ask Allah? But we most need to ask Allah. Making dua. Oh Allah, help me avoid this. Oh Allah, take me from this. Oh Allah, strengthen me in Iman. Has to be part of the process. If not, the Prophet said, "Man lam yas'al Allah, yaghdab alayh." Whoever doesn't ask Allah, Allah becomes angry with them. Allah wants us to beg Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the dua, to keep asking, keep asking, keep asking. Why? Because this shows your humility to Allah. And that's how you get the help. From any social ill, from any type of addiction, keep asking Allah. Keep asking Allah. What happens when a child keeps asking the parent the same thing? I need a pair of shoes. Okay, I'm going to give it to you. Can I go to the store and buy some? Okay, I'm going to give it to you. They keep asking. Eventually you say, what? Here, boy, go ahead. Because you realize how bad he wants it. Well, the example to Allah is high. Keep asking Allah. Keep asking Him. But don't say, well, I already made dua. Stop. The Prophet said, not to be hasty. Yes, the jab. Now, Saddam said that to ajilu fit dua. Don't be hasty in dua. What does this mean? This doesn't mean don't make dua, but it means don't be hasty for the answer. You made dua today, you expect it to be answered right away. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depending on Allah, depending on your relationship with Allah. But if you make dua for 3 weeks and it doesn't come, don't stop making dua. I made dua, Allah didn't answer me yet. The Prophet said, the person who says, da'awtu. I asked Allah. Walam yastajabani. But Allah didn't answer me. No. Keep asking. So this issue requires sincere dua. Sincere dua with your heart in it. It's a hudur al-qalb. It's a condition of dua. You're making dua, but you feel it in your heart. Not you just saying it from your tongue. You really feel it. You really feel destitute, destroyed if Allah doesn't help you. You feel it. You cry out to Allah. Some people, they cry out because they see the movie. The end of the movie is sad. You start crying. I remember we had a movie coming up in Jahiliyyah called Kudi High. You remember that movie? At the end of that movie, everybody cried. Am I not telling the truth? Color Purple. With the lady had the gold Whoopi. Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg with slave movie. Make you upset at the cry. You'd be upset. You'd be crying Roots. But we won't cry tears of destitute and sorrow and anger that our sins to Allah. If you do that, wallahi, these social issues, for you will be victorious away from them. Because you're giving your heart to Allah. That's what He wants. You're humbling yourself to Allah. That's what He wants. You're begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the key for tafreej, being free from any of these illnesses. Tazkiyah through the Quran. Through the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala mentioned أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. These are those who believe in it. Meaning, those who read it, حَقَّ تِلَاوَةٍ. Haqqa tilawa in Arabic, Abdullah ibn Abbas, the great scholar from the companions, he said, this tilawa doesn't just mean read it, but it means read it, haqqa tilawa, giving it its right, meaning you follow it. So many times, if we've been fortunate enough to learn how to read the Quran, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to stump on anybody's spirituality. I'm not trying to strip hope from you. But there's a difference between reading English translation, Spanish translation, French translation, German translation, Urdu translation, and reading Quran. When we say Quran, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. That's Quran. That Quran, Abdullah ibn Abbas said, what Allah means, haqqa tilawa, means there's not a word that you read in Quran that you believe and that you say, except you must also apply it. Applying that Quran, another way to purify ourselves. So if we're doing these things, we're going to have less time for that internet, like the Shaykh was talking about, minimizing that time. If you're engrossed in those things, you're going to have less desire to use in this website and that website and this group and that group. If you're doing, like the Shaykh said, reading Surah Al-Mulk before you go to bed. What else should you read before you go to bed? The last two ayats of what? Surah Al-Baqarah. There's some dua you make. Tayyib, you're going to fall asleep with that, but some people fall asleep with the device in their hand. Allahumma musta'an. That's the last thing that you got through watching. Subconsciously, you might have a dream about it. You might wake up thinking about it. But if you go to sleep reading the Quran, that's the last thing you said. Have the Quran playing as you go to sleep. Then these things will help you in these type of matters that we're talking about. You won't just wake up, grab your phone, and go back to where you left off on certain websites. No. This is very important because lastly, and then we'll do some question and answers after we pray, because it's 8:23. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man, آخر كلمة لا إله إلا الله ماذا؟ دخل الجنة." Whoever's last statement is La ilaha illallah, they're guaranteed VIP to go to the Jannah. But if I'm going to sleep watching something or listening to something, I'm listening to, people going to sleep this to that, rap music or some movie. What do you expect? What's your last statement? Suppose you go to sleep and don't wake up. That was your last statement? No, real. You go to sleep, you're saying something, maybe even from what you were listening to or watching, you're talking in your sleep, you're saying this and that subconsciously because that's the last thing you remember. So these things are very relevant. We need to sit with ourselves and reflect about them and have an honest conversation with ourselves about them and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it feasible. The tools that we learn and the skills that we learn to deal with these issues, that we accept them firstly, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us and shows us how to use these tools, and that ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that gives you tawfiq, meaning success in what you're achieving. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq in our achievements. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rid us from these social ills. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure us and keep us from any type of addiction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from all types of tribulation. That which is inward and outward. إنه سميع الدعاء إنه على كل شيء قدير. صلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We're going to break, pray salat al-Maghrib, and we'll come back with questions and answers, open the floor. And if there's any food left after the salat and the question and answers, we don't want no bloodshed down with the food, but we want you to take it with you. Don't leave anything here. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Sheikh Abdul Wahid. Not here?
No, Sheikh. He's not here.
Your name Sheikh Abdul Wahid? Yeah, okay. You said, what do you need? That's okay. Sheikh Anwar. You still eating? Sheikh Anwar.
So laptop?
Yeah, move it. You put it on the
Still
plugged up?
Yeah, I can leave it plugged up and get on the member.
Yeah.
The sisters need the mic.
Yeah.
They're going to give questions and answers after, so I was looking for you to give you the mic for that.
Oh, okay. She wants to have it now, so afterwards they can talk.
Okay, take.
Here, Shaykh.
Okay.
Tell them to keep it from their mouth and try to find a place where it's not feedback. You know what we did yesterday. Shaykh, it's a Fadal Shaykh.